Well, good morning and a very warm welcome back to another week on my plot. Sunday morning, as always. No wonderful skyline this morning at sunrise, but it's a calm day. I think there's going to be a little bit of rain later on. It's quite remarkable how little rain we've had this year. Unbelievable. We've had in the past week we've had a little bit of drizzle on a few days, but we haven't had a day of proper genuine rainfall for weeks. Anyway, it is what it is, more watering to do, but I've pretty much now got everything set up in the greenhouse that's staying in the greenhouse, and everything that's coming up the plot is now just about up the plot. The only exceptions to that is, I said on my last video that Cheryl had asked me to grow a few less butternuts. Somehow I've got myself confused, which is not unusual. I've got another tray of butternuts in the greenhouse, but I'm leaving them a little bit longer before I bring them up. And I've still got the last remaining crop to come up here are the gourd birdhouse, which I'm rather cosseting, and they don't seem to be moving very much. I do wonder if, you know, our climate just isn't hot enough for them. Anyway, it's an experiment and we'll see. So when I finish my ramblings, we'll have a quick look in my garden, and then I'll do a quick whiz around the plot and you can see where everything's got to. One of my failings is my impatience. So, you know, I see other people up here and on their own videos on YouTube, they bring their plants to their allotment, and, you know, butternuts and pumpkins and squashes. They're huge plants with broad leaves that they've brought on at home or wherever they do it. I bring mine up and they're sort of this big, and I put them out, and I'm behind the camera, I'm looking at some climbing French beans I've put in. They're wholly inadequate to cope with the onslaught of slugs that will hit them when I put them out. So I have this 2 to 3 week period of trepidation where things like my pumpkins that I've put out, they just look a little bit weak, even though I've hardened them off. I've learnt to do that. Anyway, what I'm saying in a roundabout way is everything in the greenhouse is set up, everything on the plot is pretty much set up with those couple of exceptions, and it's all looking very good, really good. So welcome along, it's good to have you here. I've got a whole day up here, and I'll show you in a minute what the plot's looking like. So in the greenhouse I have French climbing and dwarf beans. These are what I thought was butternuts, but I've now realised they're mashed potato squash. And then runner beans, some more cauliflowers. Those are the gourd birdhouse. Very slow to get bigger, but they're getting there slowly. And I have 2 cucumber plants with some basil and tomatoes. And the peas have all gone. So that is the greenhouse, how it will stay for summer. Roll on my own salads. Right, we're starting at this bottom gate. This cloche with the excess strawberry plants under it has been a roaring success. For about 2 weeks now I've been picking a very small punnet of strawberries every time I come up here. And we just have them on our breakfast, or Cheryl actually eats them in the kitchen out the punnet. But it's been a real success. That's the few leeks I've got in so far. I'm trying to grow more, but again, they just don't seem to move. But, you know, I'm trying to be patient. They will eventually. And then a small plot of onions. Again, they need watering today. I don't want all my onions to bolt. And this lack of rain, whilst it's lovely, does come with penalties. Some red onions, electric, there. Again, not moving a great deal, and they need watering today. My crop of comfrey is coming on a treat on both sides of the path. And then the other butternut plants that I got at the greenhouse that I didn't realise I had, they're going in here. There's a row of Sapomira main crop potatoes. Then the edamame beans just there. We've had a really good picking from that rhubarb, really good. Got quite a lot in the freezer, ready for next winter's crumbles. The carrots are coming on famously. And then these are the pumpkins. And I had so many strawberry tomato plants that I've put a small row here just to get rid of them. I must remember to keep watering them. They don't look particularly good, but they're surviving. And the pumpkin plants, there is a visible increase in their size from last week. So hopefully pumpkins this autumn to take to the farm shop. The blackberry there, Reuben, looks good, as does the josterberry. It's a whopping plant, and there is a blackberry in there somewhere. You can see the flowers and the fruit setting. Moving through to the main plot, I'll talk about the composts later, because I've done a bit of work on those this week. These are the runner bean plants that Melvin gave me. His plot abuts mine, and he had some excess plants, so he offered me some. They're a white flower. He doesn't know what variety, but he says they're stringless, they're good tasting. So I accepted gratefully his kind offer, and they're in. More potatoes. That's the bed of butternuts. These are the onions I grew from seed, and they're looking quite good now. The roses that I brought when we moved the shed in the garden. I have my first partially opened rose flower there. Thrilled with that. These are the Brussels sprouts. And here are the first sowings of climbing French beans. And this bed is still empty, but that will have the dwarf French beans in when they germinate. Onions, a few bolted. That's calabrese or broccoli and cauliflowers, and the one over there are my red and green cabbages. The butternut are in that bed there, and this is the tomato bed. So what have I got? These are a blight resistant variety called Oh Happy Days, the smaller of the plants, because I only got those a bit later. Then I have one row of Pompodoro something. They're the plum tomato that Terry asked me to grow for him this year, and I had half of them. And then 3 rows of Crimson Crush, again meant to be a blight resistant variety. The pea aldermen have taken a bit of a bashing. We had some really strong winds this week, and I do tie them in as they climb up. Some of them snapped. I've lifted them, and hopefully they'll carry on, but we've got flowers setting on them now. Talking of flowers setting, these potatoes, which are kestrel, they're coming on. They look good. More onions, the white onions. Raspberries need a bit of water today, I think. Ah yes, and these are the winter squash mashed potato. Again, I do have some more of those growing at home. That's my garlic bed with a few tomatoes around the edge. The beetroot, 2 sowings there, very distinct, different sizes, and some sweet peas on the frame behind. 2 jostaberry plants, and then the black currants, which look good. And these are the main strawberry beds. Lots and lots of green strawberries on them, but no pickings yet. And there's the 2 courgette plants, which are looking really healthy. My asparagus bed, which again looks healthy, but it'll be a while before I pick anything. And my first big success this year, the broad beans. We are getting lots and lots of broad beans. The freezers are already filling up, but we do like our broad beans. Cheryl cooks them and then we have them cold. The younger ones we have cold on our salad, and then they go in the freezer for the winter. That's my last little row of pea alderman to go in, the last gap I've got. Some more potatoes here, kestrel. Gooseberries are looking good. The pond is overflowing. More of that some other time or later. Little cluster of flowers there. And then my sort of industrial area where I've got my perpetual spinach, which is really looking good. And then there's all sorts of different things in pots that I haven't put in yet. So here's the perpetual spinach. I'll be taking my first picking of that tomorrow to have in a smoothie. And then lots of flowers, calendulus and marigold, and I haven't quite decided where they're going yet. So, as we speak, it all looks really good. Very pleased with how it's going. I'm on top of it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, a good year ahead. I'd got myself into a bit of a pickle with these compost heaps recently. And when I say a pickle, what I mean is they were all full, bar one, which I was using as the working heap. The problem with that is, when it comes to turning it, I had nowhere to turn it into, because this one was full of manure that I'd taken from the pile at the back. That was the working heap. That's got stuff in that is just rotting down, ready to be used as a mulch in the autumn. And the last one has got leaf mould. So I didn't have an empty bed, an empty bay. So what I did was I took all the manure from this one and put it in one right down the end that was empty, creating an empty bay next to the working bay. Stay with me, folks. I then emptied the working bay, which was just about full, into this one, lasagna laying it with manure. So that is now filled with good stuff, rotting down. In fact, when I filled it, which was one day this week, it was right up to the plastic lid. Well, it's dropped about 8-10 inches. So that's going well. So everything that was in that bay has been turned into this bay, added with some fresh straw and manure, and will be left now until the autumn, I hope. Which means I've now got a working bay back again. And what I shall do next time is, in a few months when this one is full, the one that's there, I will empty of whatever that is in there as a mulch, and then I'll be able to tip it into it. It's a very long-winded and waffling way of saying you do need at least 2 bays next to each other, one working and one empty, to tip it into. Anyway, it's all sorted now. Boy, you could sleep on that quite happily. I read a few things recently which staggered me. I mean, I know we're in a bit of a state, but when it's put into statistics, it sort of comes home to you. The first thing is, I read this, I can't remember where I read it, but I work on the banks of the River Wye one day a week, and I'm acutely aware from the landowner and the fisherman what a state the river's in. They have all these chicken farms up in the catchment area of the River Wye, and of course, as with all animal farms, their effluent isn't treated and it leaches into our waterways. And of course, you know, we've got millions, if not billions of animals, and slowly but surely they are polluting our waterways, seas and oceans. But here we are. A third of all male fish living in UK rivers now have female reproductive tissues and organs caused by feeding off of sewage effluent containing female hormones from the contraceptive pill. That is tragic on so many different levels. A third of all male fish in the UK rivers have female reproductive parts caused by the contraceptive pill. That's awful. And we continue to do nothing about it. We build more and more houses, which need more and more sewage works, which produce more and more sewage, which pump into our rivers. You know, it's rather depressing. Anyway, my son gave me this book to read recently, Get Well Fast by Janine Galizia, and it's absolutely fascinating. I'm not going to make any comments on it because I'll start rambling and ranting, but I'm just going to read you the statistics. The first one about autism is from America, because they study it more closely than we do, and the statistics are more readily available. But as you know, whatever happens in America happens in Europe and in the UK. And this is from the CDC, the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention. 1 in 50 children had autism in 2000. 1 in 50. Sorry, 1 in 150 in 2000. 1 in 125 in 2004. 1 in 88 in 2006. 1 in 68 in 2012. 1 in 59 children in 2014. And now it's 1 in 37 when you look at boys. 1 in 37 boys in America, and you can pretty much guarantee the same here, is on the autism spectrum. And I have read it in other publications that scientists estimate if autism continues to rise at the levels it is, then by the year 2050 every child born in the UK will appear on the autism spectrum. How we're not having a discussion about that in society is utterly beyond me. Just think about that. Everybody born in the UK from 2050 on will be autistic. Everybody, 100%. Where are we going to get our armed forces, our pilots, you know, our doctors? Maybe a few less. I don't know. That is truly staggering. Anyway, to the UK. People with allergies and or food intolerances, 1 in 5 adults. Alzheimer's, 1 in 3 adults die with Alzheimer's or dementia. Asthma affects 1 in 12 children. Autism, oh, I've done that. Cancer, 50% of adults in the UK today will get cancer at some point in their life. Chronic disease, 6 in 10 have 1 chronic disease. 4 in 10 adults have 2 chronic diseases or more. Chronic kidney disease affects 1 in 7 adults. Chronic pain affects 1 in 6. Depression, 1 in 5 adults. Developmental disabilities affects 1 in 6 children. Diabetes, 1 in 4 adults. And heart disease, 1 in 4 deaths is due to heart disease. All of those are preventable and curable. All of them. And yet, I don't know, it's really rather depressing. Yeah, it's staggering. What I find fascinating is the more we rely on technology, the sicker we get. It's true to say. Those societies like the Hunzakuts, the Okinawans, people living in Sardinia, when they were isolated from Western civilization, they were the healthiest human beings to ever walk the earth. And as Western life crept in, so did our chronic diseases. It is all so obvious, and yet we continue to sell and peddle drugs. And people go to the NHS expecting drugs. I don't understand it. But anyway, quite interesting, if slightly depressing. I promise I will be a little more cheerful at my next interlude. I didn't find this bit of quite interesting information in the books, but I can't remember where. I think I learnt it from Terry. I think Terry told me. It's the sort of thing he'd come up with. But in sign language, the sign for bullshit is in today's society, you need to know that. Yes. Sorry to all those who are of a sensitive disposition, but yeah. Fantastic. Trouble with me waffling on now for a couple of years is I forget what I've said and what I haven't. I should ask Brian, he's watched all my videos, he'd probably remember. I can't remember if I've told this story or not, but in 1982, as a 19-year-old, I was on my commando course. And it was a challenging course, as you'd expect, very difficult. Interestingly, it's been on the TV this last couple of months with recruits going through the Royal Marine Commando course. And the tests are identical to what they were all the way back in 1982 when I did it. And when I was on the commando course, we had a survival phase. And we sort of, from memory, I think we knew it was coming. You know, you speak to other people and you know it's a week-long survival phase. And they, you know, did resistance to interrogation. And it was all very tough, intimidating. The instructors were intimidating men, and we were only young lads. We had a fella come over from America. I think he might have been a ranger, but he was a Vietnam veteran, and he was very, very good. You know, he'd seen it all, been there, and we were all young, raw recruits. And he was a very calming influence and a great comedian. And in the morning, you know, whoever was in charge of us would say, "Come on then, chaps, let's go." And he'd shout out, "Saddle up and move 'em out." Anyway, before this survival, I'm waffling off again. Before this survival phase, we were taken down to Poole, and we were all paraded on the hard. And a hard is a concrete base that slopes down to the water's edge. Prior to getting in the rigid raiders and going off to do a beach assault, and we suspected the survival phase. So they wanted to make sure we had no food on us. So we stood there in all our combat gear with our pouches and our webbing and our rifles, and we put all that down, and that was all searched. So we just stood in our uniform. Then this uniform was searched, and we were told to take our uniform off. So there was, I don't know how many of us there were, but there were lots of us, all stood there in our underpants. And we, you know, they walked amongst us and made sure we didn't have anything on us. And then they said, "Right, fellas, get your skiddies off." Skiddies is a polite word for underpants. And so we all looked at, okay, do as you're told on a commando course, let me tell you. So we all took our underpants off, and we stood there as nature made us. And we're all stood to attention. And they came along, and any hair you had under your berry was yours. So some guys had quite big tufts of hair. And they were, you know, look at, I mean, where they think we're going to hide food, stood naked. But sure enough, one of the fellas in his big curly hair had the little silver sheaths of Wrigley's chewing gum. He'd slid some of theirs in there. I mean, what use is chewing gum on a survival exercise? God knows. But that was all he could get in his hair. And then I'll never forget, the funny bit was, the instructor said, "Stand at ease." And when you stand at ease from attention, you bring your legs apart. And with that, one fella, he dropped a Mars bar out of his arse cheeks. In its wrapper, I hasten to add. But it was already a hot day. And he'd, you know, when we were told to take our underpants off, he put it in between his cheeks and was holding it. Oh no, because I was in the rear rank, I could see what was going on in front of me. Well, even the instructors had to laugh. That was very amusing. He'd hidden a Mars bar between the cheeks of his backside. Oh, happy days. He never did get to eat that. Probably just as well. I've had a good day. Always do. Always do. Love it. There's been a few people up today, not many. 3 actually, other than me. Yeah, it is peculiar. You know, I never have understood it. I've been here 6 years, and I genuinely don't understand why most of these people have allotments. Just don't understand it. I reckon at least 50% of the people almost never come here. You know, the plots are covered in weeds, and I know everyone's different, but you know, if you haven't got time, and you know, why bother? I don't know. Anyway, it's none of my business. But I've picked some strawberries, I've picked some broad beans, I've tidied up the rhubarb, I've done 3 hours of watering, I've done quite a lot of hoeing, weeding. I've got a lot of the calendulas and the marigolds in spaces where I can get them. So yeah, very good. I'm very happy and a good day. Hope I didn't depress you too much with the health statistics for the UK, but it's, you know, it's fascinating as well as alarming, and nobody talks about it. We carry on regardless. Everybody eating the same rubbish, going to the same doctors, and nothing changes except it gets worse. You know, it's interesting. Anyway, I won't be here next week. We're away for the Jubilee weekend. We're down in Exmoor. So I will see you in a fortnight's time. So whatever you're doing over the Jubilee weekend, have a great time. What an achievement. Absolutely outstanding. Congratulations to Her Majesty. I shall see you in 2 weeks' time. Look after yourself, take care, and bye for now.